Long ago, I was a harvester for a cult. One night, the people we took weren't what they seemed. My task was always relatively simple. Scout the isolated rows provided by Mother and Father, M&F. Set the bait, sedate, and abduct. Typically, I would use roadkill, a dead kangaroo or a dog, or really anything big enough to draw attention. Sometimes I would gore it up a bit to make it more enticing. It usually worked fine. The process of reprogramming back at home base was typically long and always barbaric. M&F were always insistent on using the limits of the subject's capacity to endure pain as their means of indoctrination, and it worked. People break a lot easier than you'd think when they're isolated in unknown territory and pushed to their limits. We were based high and deep in the hills, far enough from suburbs that nobody would know they're gone, or even where they'd go missing, but close enough that we got people coming through. Granted, it wasn't very frequent, but that's how we liked it. No need to build our numbers up too fast and raise any red flags to the area we were in. I spent many of my working nights just sitting and waiting, chatting to my brother and hoping we get some action. This night in particular was warm and still. The roadkill we had was a fully grown kangaroo we found that had been presumably hit by a car a little further towards the nearest town. It was perfect bait. All we needed was for them to stop and get out for about a minute, and we'd have them. My brother would use a dart gun that was laced with a strong sedative, one to the neck for each of them, and they were incapacitated within seconds. It was always clean and simple. One of us would take their car and ditch it in one of many spots we scouted previously, while the other transported them back to home base in the truck and then come back to pick the other up. It was clockwork. We'd been in it for years. We grew up in it. It was all we knew. We were good at what we did. M&F had most of the local PD in their pockets, so we didn't really need to worry, but still had to be very cautious as not to draw attention. There's only so much leeway the police could give before having to actually do their job, so discretion was paramount. It was part of the agreement we had. There was good money in trafficking people, which we'd do on a rotation. One for the cult, one to sell. It kept us afloat for as long as I'd been alive. We had what looked to be tourists driving along the road, probably lost or some such, and so we went to work. We waited for them to stop and gaze at the kangaroo we had placed for them, and brother wasted no time. His accuracy was incredible. In the dark of night, and from quite a few meters away, he'd always manage to get them right on the neck, pinpoint accurate. They didn't even know it happened before they passed out. One minute they're inspecting a dead roo, and the next they'll be awoken by M&F as they begin the ritual. Tonight was different, though. The ritual began as it normally did, father chanting and mother poking them with hot needles. She knew every specific nerve point to cause the most pain, and they were screaming, as they often did. Father began to bleed them into a cup and feed them. It was all going to plan. Then the woman's eyes turned black. Pitch black. Not the kind of black you get with dilated pupils from adrenaline and fear. Her eyes were entirely the darkest shade of black I'd ever seen. Her blood that she'd been fed was dripping from her mouth. She began to growl, and with seemingly renewed strength, she fought against the chain she was tied up in. I was nervous. We hadn't seen this before. The more it went on, the less human she appeared, and the husband was just giggling to himself. "You're all fucked! You're all fucked!" he repeated as she grew more frantic. Father was beside himself with excitement. What an asset this thing could be for us. A creature not known to any recorded history at the disposal of our humble cult of worship. An asset he truly believed she could be turned, that she could be tamed. It all happened so fast. The chain snapping free as she lunged at him, scratching and biting his face with a feverish and animalistic delight, tearing and ripping until Father's face was nothing but loose meat. His skull had become visible. Most of us fled. The husband was laughing manically. "You're all fucked. I told you! I told you! Fucked, fucked, fucked!" She lunged from person to person, snapping one's neck, slashing the other with her fingernails. I barely managed to get to the truck in time. She had wiped out everybody. Every last one. I sped off and saw her barreling towards me on all fours, before seemingly losing interest and turning around so fast I could barely comprehend it. I didn't stop driving. I drove for miles. I took to the highway and didn't stop until I was in the next state over. I've never been able to make sense of what she was, what had happened. Maybe I'd gone mad. I don't know. It all feels like a dream now. It was 15 years ago. There were never reports of the massacre in any news articles. Like it never happened. I mourned Mother and Father, my brothers and sisters. I didn't know how to even live for many years. That family was all I knew. Whatever it was, I pray to whatever gods that will themselves to listen that I never encounter it again. But in the back of my mind, it feels like she's watching, stalking, waiting from afar. Never did I think I'd be so desperately wishing to be in a state of unfounded paranoia. And that was long ago. I was a harvester for a cult. One night, the people we took weren't what they seemed. By skellafella. I love that name. It's just rolls off the tongue so well. Fantastic. So, we're gonna get the critique out the way first, so that way we can get into the fun gushing stuff. A whole lot of run-on sentences. A whole lot of commas. Gotta tidy up some of the grammar. That's pretty much it. Anyway, let's talk about the cool shit. So, I've always enjoyed a story about cults, cult activities, whether it be in a text format, whether it be a real-world documentary, for example. I think the idea of a cult is obviously, it's tragic, it's horrifying, it's, it can really mess up people's lives. Like, there's no denying that. The idea of a cult is bad. But, yet again, makes for a great horror story so long as it's not a real one, right? Because then it's like... It's fucking awful. I thought this was quite good because, yet again, it's not like it's just cult activity and something goes wrong, even though that is basically what happens. It's a very short and sweet story about, one of the people who works for the cult, who naturally, is indoctrinated. They follow whatever they're told to do, as cult activity is. And I found it really weird that, just casually, it's like, oh yeah, we'll put roadkill on the road to attract people to check it out, and that's how we abduct them. I think there's a pretty smart mentality to that. But just casually, like, kangaroo roadkill. And I was like, well, I mean, first off, so now I'm pretty sure they're in Australia, and that's quite interesting. Which I think there was a super weird movie, I think it was called Wolf Creek, maybe? That was quite cool, about somebody abducting people in Australia. And that was quite horrific. So maybe think of that. But, I mean, I suppose it's like the same thing as like a deer, right? Because deer are quite big, but if they get hit by a car, they don't always die, but most times they die. So I guess the same logic could be applied to kangaroos. I just thought it was kind of weird because I guess I'd never really thought about a kangaroo as roadkill, but I guess the logic does work. So I've kind of answered my own question there. No, weird, interesting, great, horrifying. The methodology in this, it makes a level of sense. The fact that they have the police under their thumb so they can do most things and get away with it is bizarre. But yet again, it works in the story's favor. But let's talk about what's up with the woman, right? What's up with the dude's wife that they abduct to crazy black eyes and ferocious attacking and stuff like that. Almost like she's gone feral or possessed or something like that, or she's not entirely human, right? I don't know any specific folklore or mythology when it comes to Australia, New Zealand, areas like that. But if there are maybe some that I should be more aware of, let me know down in the comments below, because I'm really curious as to what those kind of explanations might be, because otherwise for me it makes me think of perhaps some kind of a Wendigo, but it also sounds like she's got like ferocious nails, so a little bit more like an animalistic transformation is what it kind of really sounds like. But that's just me. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down below, because I'm really curious if people might have a better idea of what is going on here. I'd like some information, and I could just look into it myself, but it allows a good level of interaction between you and me, and I think that's great. And I think it's really great. So things that this made me think of. Immediately, the countless documentaries about real-world cults over the years, which, there's tons of them. You can find them on pretty much every popular streaming platform out there. The immediate ones that come to mind are Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. I think Waco, because that was kind of a culty activity as well, wasn't it? Wild Wild Country, I found that to be quite an interesting story, especially the fact that they kind of basically wage war with an American town. That was quite funny. Well, not funny, but you know what I mean. God, what was the other one? Nexium? I think that was another one that really came to mind immediately. But that's because I recently watched that one in the past few months with my partner Jenny. She introduced me to that one. But it just reminds me that cults come in many flavors and fashions, right? But ultimately, a lot of their methodology kind of is the same, right? The point is they are attempting to dominate the minds of somebody, so much so that they have complete control over that person, right? I mean, doesn't matter how they do that, but the point is that is what they're trying to do. Because if they have complete and utter control over a person, well, you can get them to do essentially whatever, can't you? And it's horrifying. It is horrifying. But it's very interesting that it's happened so many times over the years. Another thing it made me think of, which this is super obscure to some of you, is a video game, funnily enough, called Harvester. And this is it's a 1996 point-and-click adventure game. It's super strange. It's super weird. It's really cool, though, but it literally is about, basically, you wake up in this super bizarre town where everybody's a bit weird and strange. And they're talking about, like, this grand event that's going to happen and stuff like that. And basically, you work your way into this lodge. And, funnily enough, the whole point is it's a cult, right? That they're all in a cult. And they're trying to indoctrinate you to join the cult. Very funny that it all ties in together. And the last thing that I want to bring up about Harvester is, funnily enough, in a D&D game that I'm currently play pretty much once or twice. Well, a couple of times a month on a Saturday, usually through my buddy DM Josh. Funnily enough, in that game, I play a Warforged, and his name is Harvester. And there's a reason for that. And part of his backstory that we first went with, which was part of the plan, was he was one of his earliest memories that he can properly remember is working on a farm, and he would harvest the crops. So he was a harvester. There is a little bit more to it than that, but I'm not gonna reveal all that shit, because in case anybody's watching this that is in that game, I don't want them to know the full details behind all that just yet. But yeah, just thought I'd kind of point that out. It's really funny how the word harvester has a lot of interesting meaning, especially to me. Well, let me know down in the comments below what this made you think of, whether it be TV show, documentary, movie, books, comics, maybe a game. Let me know. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. This has been it's been a fantastic little read. I've certainly enjoyed it, and I sure hope you have too. This has been Nate at Night, and we'll see you next time. Take care out there. Thank you to the YouTube and Patreon members who've been supporting this channel so far. This has been a fantastic effort. Thank you so much. I couldn't do any of this without your support. Really, I really can't. Thank you. You can also show support through a donation at coffee.com/nateatnight, or whenever I'm live streaming through super chats of YouTube or through Twitch. And whenever you donate, I'll be sure to read your messages out on stream.